Indeed, lately a black cat has been running between Zlata's parents. It all started when Dad started coming home less often and earning less money. And Mom, like many women, thought that he had a mistress. She began to pester her husband about everything, and picked on even degrees things that could not be picked on. Dad became irritable because of problems at work. That's why he could keep his emotions to himself. Stable and respectful family relationships turned into Italian passions. And Zlata herself became an unwitting witness to their quarrels and on a regular basis. The girl looked enviously at her happy classmates, whose parents were holding hands and exchanging kisses before dinner. Why can't she, Zlata, be like that? And then they demand that I get straight A's, thought the girl. Is it possible to study in a degrees environment like that? By the way, Zlata's mother was a police officer, so her commanding bass echoed in the corridors for a long time, even 5 minutes after she had finished her tirade. Dad, on the other hand, had a soft, intelligent baritone. But he, too, was far from a delight to the ear and raised tones. In fact, Papa rarely shouted for real. That was my mother's prerogative. He only excused himself and tried to appeal to his spouse. But it didn't work out so well. In the last month, the showdown became so frequent that Zlata was already subconsciously preparing herself for their divorce. After all, everything in the world does not last forever, even families taking advantage of the opportunity. The girl burst into the kitchen, grabbed a cheese sandwich and an apple from the table. Then, ignoring her mother's pleas to stay, she galloped up the stairs. In the end, how much longer can you stand it? I want to spend this reunion in as pleasant a way as possible. You can't do that with them. Of course, I love Mama and Papa very much. But now they are just unbearable. Zlata met her neighbor, Tamara Ivanovna, at the doorway. For the girl, though, she was just Baba Toma. The old woman was returning from the store with heavy bags. Since degrees the screams of Zlatina's parents could be heard outside, Tamara Ivanovna lifted her head and looked at the kitchen windows. Good morning, Zlatochka. What did your parents fight about again? You can hear them all over the yard. I don't know, Tamara Ivanovna, replied the schoolgirl. They've been fighting a lot lately. It seems to me my mother doesn't even need a reason. She likes to scold Daddy to the bone. Yes, your mother's a real hard ass. One word a policewoman grumbled Granny she shouldn't be creating a family, but a regiment commanding? That's where her abilities would have come in handy. But she is tormenting her husband, and you are suffering. Do you think they will divorce? Suddenly Grandma Toma turned to Zlata as a degrees adult. I'm sorry for asking. You're a big girl now, and I think you know how things can end up. You know, Tamara Ivanovna, I won't be surprised if it happened. Yesterday Daddy got in trouble for putting his socks in the wrong place. And the day before yesterday, for picking up the newspaper first. I'm a kid, of course, but I don't think it's normal anymore. And it wasn't that long ago that we were given an essay on how I see my family in the future. And before that there was theory. The teachers told us that the most important thing is love and understanding. And that you have to respect each other and be able to find compromises. Yes, everything your teachers say is right, replied the old woman. I've been living with Grandpa Vitya for 55 years. And during that time we have never quarreled. We've never been unfaithful to each other, can you imagine? They don't believe me when I tell them. That's because people used to get married not because all our classmates were already married and you had to, but because they really loved each other. That's why couples were so degrees length. You've got a fiancé, haven't you? No, not at all, said Zlata, embarrassed. Of course I like a boy from the next class. But you know my mother. That's why I don't even think about going to the cafe or the cinema with him. If she found out, she'd take the belt and give me a hard time. By the way, please don't tell her. I'm a grave, winked Tamara Ivanovna, you can believe me. If I never said anything to the Germans during my interrogation, I certainly won't tell your mother. We frontline warriors are a tough people. All right, Zlatochka. I have to go. I'm doing the laundry today. It's been piling up all week. You know how poor Grandpa and I are, we don't have a machine. I have to do it myself. Grandpa must be home hungry, too. Don't worry, the old woman leaned over and lightly smoothed the girl's forehead. Everything will be all right. All people quarrel, all people make up, and if they don't make up, it's God's will. Zlata nodded. She liked Tamara Ivanovna. A nice old woman, not like some adults. Not only that, she does not preach. And tries to communicate degrees with an adult. After seeing her grandmother with a glance, the girl sat down on the old degrees bees and dug her teeth into a homemade sandwich. I call my best friends Galya and Sveta, but both girls refused to go out. Galya's parents had taken her to the country house and she hadn't come back yet, but Sveta was punished for getting 3DS. Relations with the other boys in the yard were not as warm. After walking alone for a while, Zlata decided to go home. On the stairs she ran into her mother, who was furious with rage, and yelled at the whole staircase. "I hate you. You bastard. To think I wasted the best years of my life on him. You know what? Try living alone now. I'll see how you manage. You damned intellectual. All he knows how to do is lie on the sofa with a newspaper. Hess giving me advice too. I'm dragging my whole family on my back, and you can't even hammer a nail. I'm not talking about anything more. My mother was right, I shouldn't have messed with you. You're not a man, you're a travesty. She shouldn't have." Thought Zlata. Yes, Daddy wasn't punchy and had never hit anyone in his life. But he was clever and well-read. He was also very polite. Zlata remembered from her childhood. When she was very little and her father was walking with her in the yard, all the elderly neighbors called him our bunny. And they pitied behind the eyes that he was already married. They wanted very much to find a decent man for their daughters who had sat too long on the girls. The girl only now saw her mother's suitcases in her hands. She did not know whether to cry or rejoice. On the one hand, it was a shame that her parents had parted. On the other, there would be no more of her mother's cries. But with whom would she be left now? "Oh, she's going away already, you little minx." The active Baba Toma was hanging out the laundry on the balcony. "Ilyanichna and Petrovna's dream has finally come true. The bunny is free." Zlata ran into the apartment and found her father at the window with a cigarette in his hand. Her father had given up smoking a few months before she was born. But in view of today's events, apparently, he started again. "Sorry, my daughter." The man put almost a whole cigarette out the window. "It's okay, don't worry, I'll air it out." "Don't, Papa," Zlata said, "it doesn't smell much in here. Do you think Mama will come back?" "I don't know, my dear." Dad hugged her. "I don't know anything now. I'm surprised she did take you with her. I'm her unworthy man. I can't do anything. How could she trust me with a child? I think she just forgot about me," smiled Zlata. "You know that when she's angry, she doesn't see anything around her." "Yes," Father sighed. "I've felt it myself, like no one else." "Daughter, are you hungry, perhaps?" "No, thank you," smiled the girl. "I ate a sandwich outside. Why don't we feed the dogs?" Zlatina's father kept 4 Dobermans in his apartment. Despite his gentle manner and intelligence, he managed to gain the trust of this dangerous breed. The pets obeyed him without reservation. And now the man gave the command, "Sit down." And the huge dogs settled down near their bowls, waiting for a treat. "You may," Daddy said. The dogs ate with such an appetite, as if they hadn't been fed in a week. There was one other dog, however, Lima. This old girl had appeared even earlier than Zlata. In its 15 years of age, the animal practically all the time spent in a horizontal position. Lima had to be persuaded to eat. "Lime, eat, please." Zlata sat down on the degrees ortaki in front of the dog and stroked his already bald, but so nice hair. "You need strength. Please, for my sake." The dog looked up at the girl with its almond-shaped, intelligent eyes. With great difficulty, Lime moved Degrees' bowl and licked the Degrees' meat several times, turned her head aside. "Okay, daughter, do not force," said her father. "I'll leave her a bowl. If she wants it, she'll eat it." 15 years is a very old age for a dog. By human standards, Lima must be over 90 years old by now. And, as we all know, we don't get any younger as we get older. Mama never came. Zlata caught herself thinking that the house was now more comfortable and peaceful. In spite of her mother's complaints, her father was a good host. He not only cleaned the apartment, cooked, fed and walked the dogs, but also did lessons with Zlata, regularly asked her how her day was, and even listened to the girl's little semantics. And he was far more understanding than her mother. The girl even did better in her studies. Suddenly she realized that something strange was happening to her father. He often went to the cupboard, the annex, with a bowl of food, even though this room had always been locked before. When I asked him about it, he said it was old junk and nothing of the sort. It must be poison for the rats, Zlata thought. But she began to follow her father. She really wanted to find out who he was feeding. But she couldn't see anything. In the end, the girl decided to check it herself at night. Dad was snoring peacefully in the living room. Zlata grabbed the key and put it in the old lock. At first it didn't want to turn, but then it gave way. When she entered and saw what was inside, fear shackled her body. The closet was dark and frightening. But Zlata pa acute degrees ed herself not to give up. What Zlata on the light of the lantern struck her with horror. A little girl was lying on the floor in their closet, peacefully asleep. The little girl was not a few years younger than she. The light made her crawl up and frightened her into the corner. Hush, hush, I'm not going to hurt you, Zlata exhorted her. By the way, what are you? What are you doing here? Did I ask you to leave the cupboard? Her father appeared behind her back. It turned out that her father had found the child in the street. At first he wanted to find the parents through the police. But they won't let him. When he informed his wife, she told him to throw the girl out into the street. But the man refused. The girl lived in a closet for more than a week. It was during the period when mother and father were more frightened than usual. Now the food was already carried by Zlata. She even managed to get along with her new friend. She gave her part of her clothes. The latter were large but better than the rags that Degreesao was wearing. It turned out that Degreesao's name was Dana. Daddy, I think we should keep calling the police, Zlata said forever. Dana has parents, and they are looking for her. It's just that our policeman didn't want to bother. We have to be more persistent. Shall we call together? All right, my father agreed. He dialed the telephone number with determination and heard a man's voice on the other end of the call. If you want to find out how the story ended, please like it and I'll be sure to share it with you.